The rain had started before sunset, but by midnight it had become something fierce and unforgiving, the kind of storm that erased roads, blurred headlights, and made even wealthy people feel helpless. On a deserted highway outside a small town, a bright red Ferrari sat motionless beside the road like a wounded animal. Its hazard lights flashed weakly through the curtain of rain, while a millionaire woman stood beside it, soaked, despite the expensive coat wrapped around her shoulders. She had built companies, signed million-dollar contracts, and commanded rooms filled with powerful people. Yet in that lonely moment, none of her success could restart the dead machine that had abandoned her. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the hidden goodness inside ordinary people, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that sometimes hope appears from places we never expect. The woman's name was Evelyn Carter. To the world, she was admired and envied. Her business empire stretched across cities, magazines praised her intelligence, and social media displayed a life of elegance and privilege. But beneath the polished image lived a woman exhausted by loneliness. Success had come at a cost she rarely admitted even to herself. Her marriage had collapsed years earlier, her grown son barely answered her calls, and her calendar was full while her heart remained painfully empty. That night, she had been driving back from an investment meeting that promised even more wealth, but instead of feeling victorious, she felt strangely hollow. Her phone had little signal. Roadside assistance kept disconnecting. The storm worsened. Every passing minute deepened the uneasy realization that she was alone. Cars rushed by without stopping. Some drivers slowed, stared at the Ferrari, then disappeared into the darkness. Evelyn could hardly blame them. The highway felt unsafe, and people had learned to fear strangers. Still, each passing vehicle made her feel smaller. Nearly 40 minutes later, through the rain, she noticed an old pickup truck approaching slowly. It rattled and coughed like it had lived several lifetimes. She expected it to pass like the others, but instead its headlights turned toward the shoulder and stopped behind her. Evelyn stiffened. The truck looked ancient compared to her Ferrari. Rust marked its doors, and one headlight flickered uncertainly. For a second, she considered locking herself inside her car, but before she could move, the passenger door opened. A little girl stepped out first. She could not have been older than 8. She wore rain boots and an oversized yellow jacket that looked borrowed from someone much larger. Despite the storm, she moved with surprising confidence. Behind her came a tall man wearing oil-stained work clothes and carrying a toolbox. Evelyn's instincts remained cautious. The man approached respectfully, keeping distance. His face carried the exhaustion of hard labor, but there was gentleness in his eyes. Before he could speak, the little girl looked at the silent Ferrari, then at Evelyn standing helplessly beside it. Her small voice nearly disappeared beneath the rain. "My dad can fix it." The words caught Evelyn off guard. Something about the child's certainty felt strangely comforting. The father introduced himself as Daniel Reyes, a mechanic from the nearby town. He explained they had been returning home after visiting his sister when they noticed the stranded car. Evelyn hesitated. She had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from her. Trust no longer came naturally. Yet she had few choices. Daniel crouched beside the Ferrari and examined it carefully while the little girl waited under the truck's open door. Her name was Lily. While Daniel worked, Lily watched Evelyn with open curiosity. Unlike adults who recognized wealth and reacted with admiration or resentment, Lily seemed unaware of status entirely. Evelyn noticed the child holding a worn stuffed rabbit tucked beneath her jacket. The rain softened slightly. Daniel checked the engine, battery, and electrical system with focused patience. His hands moved with the confidence of someone who understood machines the way musicians understood instruments. Evelyn found herself studying him. His clothes were patched. His boots were worn. Yet his movements carried quiet dignity. After several minutes, Daniel explained that water had likely damaged part of the ignition system. It would take time and he could not promise success. Evelyn nodded. As he worked, Lily wandered closer. She told Evelyn about her school, her favorite books, and how her father could repair almost anything except broken weather. Her innocence carried no performance, no manipulation. It was simply warmth. Then Lily mentioned something that changed the atmosphere. Her mother had died 2 years earlier. The words landed heavily. Evelyn looked toward Daniel, who continued working silently beneath the hood. Lily explained that since then her dad had done everything himself: school lunches, laundry, bedtime stories, repairs at the garage. Sometimes he came home tired, but he always smiled anyway. Evelyn felt an unfamiliar ache. She suddenly remembered her own son as a child, and how many bedtime stories she had missed, while chasing meetings and profits. Rainwater slid down the Ferrari's polished frame. For the first time that night, Evelyn stopped thinking about the car. Instead, she wondered about the lives standing beside her. After nearly an hour, Daniel finally straightened. The Ferrari started. The engine roared back to life. Relief flooded Evelyn. She reached immediately for her wallet. To her, paying generously felt natural. It was how problems were solved. But Daniel surprised her. He refused. He explained simply that he could not leave someone stranded in a storm. Evelyn insisted. Again he refused. An awkward silence followed. She was unaccustomed to people declining money, especially significant money. Then she noticed Lily shivering quietly. The child tried hiding it. Evelyn glanced toward the pickup truck and realized how fragile it looked. One tire appeared nearly worn smooth. She suddenly asked where they lived. Daniel hesitated before admitting they rented a small house near town. Business at his repair garage had been difficult. Corporate dealerships had opened nearby, and customers increasingly chose larger chains. He said this casually, without self-pity. But Evelyn sensed the struggle beneath his calm. She thanked him again and drove away. Yet the highway no longer felt the same. The storm had passed, but something inside her remained unsettled. Back home, surrounded by luxury and silence, she could not stop thinking about the little girl in the yellow jacket, or the father who refused her money. Her mansion felt colder than usual. She replayed Lily's voice. "My dad can fix it." Those words lingered strangely in her mind. Not because of the Ferrari, because Evelyn realized there were things in her own life no amount of wealth had repaired. Sleep never came. The next morning she canceled meetings. Her assistant nearly panicked, but Evelyn had made a decision. She drove to the small town Daniel mentioned. Finding the garage took little effort. It sat near a faded gas station, with peeling, paint, and an old sign reading Reyes Auto Repair. The building looked tired. Inside, Daniel worked beneath another vehicle while two customers waited impatiently. Busyness was clearly struggling. Evelyn remained unnoticed at first. She watched quietly. Daniel treated each customer with honesty and patience. No inflated prices, no shortcuts. Then, she noticed Lily at a small desk doing homework while drawing flowers in notebook margins. When Lily recognized her, her face lit with genuine excitement. That reaction startled Evelyn more than she expected. No cameras, no fame, no expectations, just simple happiness. Evelyn spent the next hour talking with them. She learned Daniel had inherited the garage from his father. Losing his wife and managing debts had nearly destroyed him. Yet he refused to abandon the business tied to family memories. The roof leaked. Equipment broke constantly. Some months they barely managed rent. Still, he carried himself with quiet resilience. Something inside Evelyn shifted. For years she had invested in corporations and technology startups. But sitting inside that worn garage, she saw something different. Not merely a struggling business. A good man fighting to protect dignity. And a little girl believing in him with her whole heart. Weeks passed. Without announcing herself publicly, Evelyn returned. Then returned again. She arranged for anonymous repairs to the garage roof and replacement equipment through local programs. Daniel suspected help had arrived somehow, but could not identify the source. Busyness slowly improved, but Evelyn's greatest surprise was not helping them. It was how they helped her. She began spending evenings there away from boardrooms and headlines. Lily made her laugh. Daniel listened without judgment. For the first time in years, Evelyn spoke honestly about loneliness. One evening, she admitted something painful. Her son had not visited in over a year. Career ambition had built walls. Neither knew how to cross. Daniel offered no grand advice, only understanding. That simple compassion affected her deeply. Months later, fate tested them again. A fire broke out in the neighboring building late one night. The flames spread quickly. Daniel rushed to protect the garage. By the time firefighters arrived, smoke filled the street. Evelyn heard the news and drove there immediately. Her heart pounded as she arrived. The garage survived, but barely. Damage covered half the building. Daniel stood outside staring at the destruction with silent devastation. "Lily!" cried beside him. Insurance complications threatened everything. For a moment, Evelyn feared hope would finally break. Then, she remembered the storm, the Ferrari, and a sentence, spoken with complete faith. "My dad can fix it." Near the end of this story, if it is touching your heart, please like, share, and leave your thoughts below. Your support keeps meaningful stories alive and helps them reach people who may need hope today. Evelyn stepped forward. This time she did not hide. She revealed the truth about the repairs, the support, and her decision. She would invest fully in Reyes Auto Repair, not as charity, but partnership. Daniel stared at her speechless. She explained that real value was not found only in skyscrapers or stock markets. Sometimes it lived inside people who refused to abandon integrity. The rebuilt garage opened months later. Modern equipment filled the space. Customers returned. Jobs were created. But the greatest change could not be measured financially. Evelyn repaired something else too. Inspired by Daniel and Lily, she reached out to her son with honesty, rather than pride. Their healing began slowly, awkwardly, imperfectly, yet it began. Special request before the ending. Comment below with the words, "Kindness still exists," if you believe one small act can change someone's entire life. 1 year after the storm, Evelyn stood outside the newly restored garage during a town celebration. Children laughed nearby, while music drifted through warm evening air. Lily ran toward her wearing that same yellow jacket, now too small, but still treasured. Daniel stood nearby, smiling. Evelyn looked at the Ferrari parked quietly across the street. Onsen had symbolized success. Now it reminded her of something greater. The night she believed she was stranded was actually the night she was found. Because sometimes millionaires rescue businesses. Sometimes mechanics rescue engines. But often, it is the faith of a little girl that repairs hearts nobody realized were broken. And in the end, Evelyn learned the most valuable thing she had ever owned was not wealth at all, but the courage to let kindness change her life forever.